podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everyone, to the Inbound Success Workshop. It is July 9th, and depending on where you are, it is either 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, or 8 o'clock, or you could be off on a nice summer vacation, and we may not know what time it is. I'm very lucky this morning, and as we all are, to have Sarah Bedrick joining us from HubSpot, and we've got a great round of questions. My name is Chris Handy, and I am delighted that you're all here. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Sarah is from HubSpot, and I think she's uniquely qualified to answer some of these questions about inbound marketing for a variety of reasons. But I would like Sarah to tell you a little bit about herself before we get into all that. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on today's series. I'm really excited to be here, and I think this is an amazing workshop to address some of those great questions that people have around inbound marketing. As you said, you wanted me to introduce myself, so yes, my name's Sarah. I work at HubSpot. I've been a HubSpotter for just over 3 years, which in our terms means you are an absolute veteran. And what I do here at HubSpot is I help educate our customers. Right, we want to transform the way that people do business, and how I do that is by teaching people through webinars, in the classroom. We have customers come into the office, and I have the awesome opportunity to be in charge of all of the introductory content at HubSpot. So if you've been on one of our live labs before or seen one of our videos for our introductory content, that's something that I'm leading the charge on.
That's awesome. Really, really glad to have you here, Sarah. We've got some really cool questions, and we've had some come in this morning, and so we've gotten more all the time. So really happy to have you here. Let's just discuss a little bit about who we are here at the Inbound Success Workshop. We're a community of business leaders dedicated to growing sales by crafting web-based experiences to follow the buyer's journey. Now, that buyer's journey, if you're not familiar already, is going to be the awareness stage, or the, hey, I've got a problem here. Then the consideration stage, all right, now I'm starting to look at all the different solutions to my problem. And then finally, the decision stage, which one of these solutions am I going to choose? As we know through a lot of studies and also gut feel these days, almost 75% of the buying decisions are made before people even contact a salesperson. So what are we doing to meet each one of these stages? How are we capturing people as they first go out there and start to look for all the solutions? Well, we're doing that through inbound and content marketing, trying to map content to each stage. Now, we may be inclined to think about it from the company side, which is the traditional sales funnel of, okay, this is a visitor to my website. This is now a lead. This is now a marketing qualified lead, a sales qualified lead. Now it's an opportunity. Well, it's important to understand that your customers are not thinking in that way. They're just thinking about the problems that they have and the problems that you can hopefully help them solve. So we map each piece of content that we create and share and do all the things that we do in inbound marketing with to each one of those stages in the buyer's journey. So we really need to get a deep understanding of our customers, our ideal persona, and that's really what we do here. So I'm not going to beat around the bush. Let's get into some of these questions. Sarah, are you ready?
Oh, I am ready and raring to go.
Awesome. First question here comes in from Matt. Matt says, I have been reading articles about Facebook's algorithm changes and that getting my content in front of my fan following is very difficult at this point. What do I do? Is it time to move on to other channels? What do you think?
I think this is definitely a very highly discussed topic at the moment.
Sure. Why don't we start by clarifying what the algorithm changes are? I assume you've been reading about this as much as I have, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, I think there was a great article that I read a while ago on Mashable, and it was shared to me, and I believe back like in April, and they talked about how Facebook is tweaking their feed algorithm. So they're trying to, as they said, to combat those spammy posts. But what people and business owners and people are noticing is that all of the content that shows up in their feed is also changing as well. Um, I think they said that if it was maybe in February there was a slight change to the algorithm to get rid of those spammy posts, and it was just a subtle change. But I think since then, and now being in July, we're still noticing that they're tweaking these things. And I think personally what they're trying to do is create a nice feed experience while simultaneously trying to generate more money. That's been a common thing that people are saying here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's been really difficult to get our stuff out to our following as well. And I think I saw a very scary statistic from a study that was done that it was really 2% of brand posts that were
Mm,
actually getting out to not just anyone, but their own following that had actually gone out and liked the business's pages. So it's
mm,
pretty scary. And I think what a lot of people are doing, and this is doubly scary, is that Facebook is urging you to run paid advertising campaigns to get more likes on Facebook.
mm,
And so what's happening for those that are really uninformed about all this stuff is that they're going out and they're running these campaigns and they're starting to get more likes and everything's going great, that they're adding 100 likes this month, 100 likes next month, and we think that now that we've got those likes that we can actually reach that audience, and what this is telling us is that that is not the case. uh,
right,
that's just the start of it.
right. And so one of the articles that I read, and this is just like I think about a week ago, it said that what they're doing is focusing on making the quality content rise to the top. And what they're looking at are things like people liking the post or people liking or commenting on the post or even tagging a friend in it. And that's a common thing that's been happening a lot lately on things like Facebook and Instagram, or somebody sees something they like and they tag a friend so they can come look at it as well. And so what they're doing is using that as an indicator of quality content, but that isn't necessarily always the case, right? It has to start somewhere. It's kind of like I don't know, would you call it, maybe the chicken and or the egg type of thing?
Sure. Yeah, it's really tough. And I know why they're doing it. They want it to be a quality experience for Facebook users. They want to make sure that when Sarah gets online that she's going to see that her friend had a baby, or that there are these life-changing events. If you notice, I see more and more of that stuff. Well, a lot of my personal friends are having babies right now, so that's pretty much all I see. So it's
Tons of
but
baby photos.
and I'm not seeing for instance, what HubSpot is putting up, and unless they
Right.
do a sponsored ad campaign. So, uh, and I get it, I really do. It's becoming a paid channel, and I think us marketers really just need to accept that and move
Mm,
on and try and figure out, all right, what are we going to do? So, other than just basically running sponsored posts, which would be one of my main suggestions on get, producing a quality piece of content or offer that you're going to run on your website, and running
yeah.
sponsored posts. So promoting that particular post to a segmented audience. And that's a fairly advanced topic, probably something that we don't want to get into in too much detail today. But this question is, it also includes, what do I do? Is it time to move on to other
Yeah.
channels? What do you
I
think,
mean,
Sarah? What can we do at this point?
I don't know. That's a great question because what I say here is a very generic thing, and I would have to know more about each person's situation, right? So, and I have one of our coworkers here actually. He used his portal. As HubSpotters, we all get access to a portal. He used his portal to work with his mom, and his mom has a daycare, and she does nothing. She's blogging a little bit now, but before she did nothing except for pay for Facebook advertising, and successfully filled up her entire summer camp. So for her, I would say it's worth continuing, right?
Sure.
However, if people are looking for engagement, I would say it might be worth at least trying out some of the other channels. And I think Instagram is definitely popping up now as, the younger demographic, one of the most popular channels for them. Snapchat as well, which is a little bit difficult for marketing purposes, but it's definitely good for that awareness and that awareness type of stage.
Yeah, I think those are definitely emerging channels, and what I've noticed is that the B2C channels are really harnessing those. I think a lot of our audience here are B2B marketers targeting the enterprise, or someone in a department at a larger company. So knowing that and taking it from a B2B angle, what do you
Yeah.
think would be your go-to channel for, an alternate for Facebook?
Oh man, I mean, for B2B channels, Facebook has never really been like the number one channel. So if it was your number one channel, then you have a lot of opportunity to grow in the social media mediums. I would say for B2B, LinkedIn is a fantastic uh, channel for people to be using. People are, I mean, myself, I'm part of several groups. I look at those emails that they send out that keep me updated. I frequently check them out. I'm looking at my messages. I'm connecting with people there. Um, I also think it's important if it's B2B to be aware of exactly where your buyer personas are. Buyer personas, if people aren't familiar, are basically those semi-fictional characters that we marketers create through research. So instead of just guessing, like I think they're going to be on Instagram, right? You do a lot of conversations with them, interviews, you look at their behavior, and you decide, oh, actually, they're not on Instagram. They're frequently on Quora instead,
Sure.
asking questions and reading answers on Quora. Um, so that research is critical, and that can help bring a lot of this to light. So I would say LinkedIn is a great one. I think for B2B, also Quora, seeing the questions that maybe your buyer personas might be looking up on there and be answering questions in a thoughtful way to bring more visibility to your business. What
Yeah,
about
I
you?
think
What do you think? What do
I
you
think
think for
oh yeah, I was just gonna say I think those are great points, and I was glad to hear you say, if you're B2B, you probably shouldn't be focusing on Facebook. You know,
mm,
as an inbound agency, we speak with people every day who have been just battling trying to get likes and trying to make headway on Facebook. And B2B people, it just may not be the best. And it's, as you said, we really need to understand more about your individual business, but I would default away from Facebook for B2B. And that's just that after seeing a lot of companies go down that road, having been down that road personally, LinkedIn is awesome. And I've watched LinkedIn grow over the last couple of years. One of my favorite things about LinkedIn a couple of years ago was the questions. And it's interesting that you
mm,
brought up Quora because LinkedIn used to have a very similar functionality where you could go and literally ask questions in any given category. Not like groups where you go into a group and maybe this group is centered around a certain niche, but this is just asking a general question. And what happened is anyone could jump in there and answer those questions. We actually got several customers out of going in and just being helpful and answering people's questions. And that's what Quora is doing now. You can put out a question online, and lots of experts in that particular field may come and answer that question. And so it's a great way to demonstrate your expertise. LinkedIn as well is a great way to demonstrate your expertise. What do you think, Sarah, about frequency on LinkedIn? What have you noticed about
ooh.
getting your posts actually seen? I'm starting to see more and more analytics coming from them about who's seeing my posts. So I've been toying around with different frequencies. What have you found out?
Well, I haven't found out too much. I've recently been posting a lot of content to LinkedIn, and I've noticed, um, I love how LinkedIn shows you how many times your page has been viewed, or it shows you like this amount of times and these people, but we won't tell you everybody unless you upgrade. But I think that stuff's great. Unfortunately for me, a lot of it I haven't seen. Um, I like reading other people's content that they post. I follow a lot of like the business leaders on there because you can subscribe to their feeds and their content.
Sure.
I like reading their content, but I haven't really noticed anything, I guess, for myself. When I, got a promotion or when it was my the day that I changed my photo on there, I got a lot of commenting. But I don't know if people are necessarily coming to me though to see that. I don't know. Have you
Cool.
noticed anything?
Well, I've just really been toying around with should I post once per day? Should I post twice per day? How many times a week should I post? And trying to maximize visibility because I actually got an email this morning from LinkedIn, and this might be interesting for you to know. It looks like they partnered with Hootsuite to post to company LinkedIn pages, which I know HubSpot does this already, but I got
Right.
a direct notification in LinkedIn, and they gave a statistic in there that said that I'm just going to pull it up right now because it's really interesting statistic. It basically said companies that post twice per day, and
Ooh, I'm
get
gonna like
over
the sound of this.
200% more views on LinkedIn. So I just thought that was really interesting. Twice per day on a company page, not just on your personal page, but on a company page. So I thought that was interesting, and definitely gonna play around with that. We do post to our company page, but I've been really a lot more focused on my personal page. So I'm gonna do a lot more research there.
Right. Yeah, I would love that because I know on my feed a lot of the content that comes up is basically just um, authors of content. It's really just promoting the connections that I have more so with the authors. But maybe
Sure.
that's because, of course, I'm connected with way more people on LinkedIn than I am, following businesses and looking at them.
Sure. Yeah. Well, cool. So LinkedIn,
Yeah.
a great channel for B2B. Let's move on to the
Core
next
too. Yeah.
question. This comes in from Gerald. My business is conducted mainly face to face, and I work hard to build strong relationships with my clients. I am worried that inbound marketing is too impersonal, but I need to increase my customer base. So, how can I use inbound marketing methods while maintaining personal relationships? It's a great question from Gerald.
Really, really great question. And I feel like I hear this a lot from potential customers and people who are just signing on to inbound. Um, have you heard that a lot with the people that you've been working with?
I have, and I mean, it's just one of those things that people struggle with, and I personally struggled with when we first started doing this and started
Mm,
creating more content. And well, who's going to read it, and are they going to like it, and should I even send this to my business contact list, or should I try and build up a whole new following? You know,
mm.
and what I
Yeah,
ultimately found out is that people really don't mind hearing from me. I mean, especially if they're an opt-in subscriber or if they're in some way connected with me already.
right. Yeah, because people, if you're providing great content, Chris, like people are going to be interested in what you have to say.
Yeah, I found that very much to be true. And as far as the face to face and building strong relationships, you don't doing inbound marketing doesn't mean you have to be sitting behind a computer all the time and not out there and doing personal networking and meeting people at mixers and whatnot. I mean, there are in Fort Worth, Texas, there are so many things that I could be doing at any given time, and we really have to pick and choose what we do because we have to do this too. So it's
Right.
nice to be able to get out and do that stuff every now and then. But one question that I would have based on this is how can we use our personal relationships and in-person meetings, or how can we better integrate that with our inbound marketing efforts?
Ooh, I agree. I mean, yeah.
One thing that
Anytime, yep,
Yeah, go
sorry.
ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, anytime one of our people get on the phone, one of our sales reps, or I talk to a customer, or any type of conversation that I have that I think I can follow up a little bit better with them, I always try to find great content that I've read before that directly speaks to what we've talked about, right? As a reminder to better reinforce what we discussed, to give them more guidance. And that can be a huge thing that Gerald might do is, create a lot of great content around questions that people have or how he's helped people face these same challenges before or how these same challenges can be overcome with a few of these tips or steps. And when he's talking with people, use that as content to reinforce and to remind them of their conversation, or even have it be the gatekeeper that opens the conversation with them. You know, people. I love the face-to-face component. We like to say here at HubSpot, it's not like B2B, it's P2P, person to person,
Sure.
and that relationship is very important. And I would ask Gerald to say, um, inbound marketing can be as impersonal or as personal as you want to make it. So he could take common questions, create blog content around that, use that to open up conversations with people that find him online, right, via the inbound channel, or to reinforce existing relationships that he already has. And one of the other things is the face-to-face component. If that's really important, I love video for that because I think video is growing in popularity, and I think people really do like digesting content in video format. So creating videos that talk about those common questions, or create videos that show a little bit more about their business and what they're like can be a great idea.
Sure. What I always try to do is dig in to people's problems when I'm speaking with them, especially at these networking events, or even if you're just taking out a client to the ball game. Ultimately, if you can get to a challenge that they're having or some kind of question that they have, you can use that to your advantage. And I'm not saying to get one over on them, but to really help them, but also have the possibility of help other people. Take that question and write it down and head back and create a blog post about it. And so what have you done there? You're going to create a blog post about it. You put it up on your website, and then you get to send them an email and say, hey, let's say it's Gerald. Gerald, I really spent a lot of time thinking about what you just said. And I wanted to really answer that in greater detail. And I know we didn't have that much time. So, here's a blog post I just wrote. Hopefully it helps. And, I think that kind of thing is just a great way. And I know that's kind of mirroring what you just said, Sarah, but I think that is a really great way to integrate that.
Totally. Can I give you a quick example of one of our customers that did this and did this so well in one of the typically face-to-face industries?
God, that would be great.
Yeah, so one of our HubSpot customers, Joey Giangola, works over at Giangola Insurance. They're based out of Ohio. And Joey saw the inbound idea and really bought into the vision, had to sell his dad on the idea because his dad owned the insurance company.
Sure.
But his dad was like, you know what, go ahead, try this thing. Because insurance is, absolutely a face-to-face thing. You have to make sure that you trust this person, that you want to work with them, you are going to be handing over money to them. It's a really big deal. And so what Joey's company, Giangola Insurance, did was they created a bunch of content around their most commonly asked questions, like the best and worst Ohio health insurance plans with a video, the best
Sure.
Ohio health insurance marketplace plans, 4 secrets to getting approved, and I'm reading them right now, for individual and family health insurance. And took all of those questions that people asked, wrote the most remarkable content online, put videos in there so they know who they're watching is the same person they're going to be working with, right? Absolutely established himself as a thought leader. Now, what they did I thought was really remarkable. If somebody wanted to download the piece of content at the end, like the free video series, what he did was put that, they became a lead and put them into a drip campaign or a lead nurturing campaign. And that slowly, with videos that he'd already created, educated these people to a point where if they called Giangola Insurance, they weren't just like, can you tell me more about yourself, or can you tell me more about this plan? They were so educated that they weren't just, inside of the funnel, they were hanging out the other end. So by people reading this content, they got a feel for him, his company, what they stood for, how great they were, used inbound marketing as a way to educate them in a personal way, and then turn that into high quality leads that were just raring to buy from them when they picked up the phone.
That's awesome. That just
Yeah.
warming people up.
Oh yeah. Definitely check them out. Giangola Insurance, they're great. They also have a good Google Plus page that shares a lot of inbound techniques and tips for insurance companies. So maybe Gerald, if his business is more face-to-face, maybe it's also financial in nature, could check them out.
Awesome. We'll definitely add
Cool.
that to the show notes when we release this later.
Thank you.
So next question. I have been blogging regularly for a couple of months now, but no one is reading my articles. How can I get my content in front of more people? This comes from Ashley.
Ooh, very common question as well, and I love
Sure.
this one. Here's this quite a bit. I would say it's, once again, difficult to provide just, unless we're looking at it, it's difficult to say exactly why, but I know there's a few reasons. Do you know what the first one I'm going to say is, Chris? If you're
Share.
creating content, no one's reading it. Do you know what the first thing I might say is? Just take a guess.
The first thing you
me.
might say would be share it with your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe no one's reading it because it's just being created and not being shared.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people do think that, okay, if I put this up, then the traffic's just going to start coming. And while search engine optimization is part of the reason we're doing this, it's a very long-term effect of what you're doing. So
Yeah,
make sure that you send this out to your audience. If they want to hear from you, if they're truly your audience that is opted in some way, then get it out to them.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of it. Every single time I publish my own blog post, every single time I go to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Google Plus, and I post it saying like, "Hey, just wrote a new post. So excited to share it with everyone. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please comment here or on the comment section below." And that's just a great way to get a little bit of extra eyes before the search engines pick it up. Now, the one thing that I've noticed just as of recently, the sooner I put it to Google Plus and conversation happens happens there, it seems as though the sooner my Google alerts let me know of the post, which means the sooner it was actually indexed. So the content was found via the search engine quicker because I put it on Google Plus and was sharing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Megan in the chat pane has said that, well, I think Ashley's first area of concern is SEO, and I agree. I think that's definitely a concern that a lot of people have. So what
Yeah.
can we do better or how can we check to make sure that we are structuring our posts properly, or what are some key things to look at when you're constructing a blog post to make sure that it has the best chance of reaching your intended audience? What do you think about that, Sarah?
Oh, okay. So when we say sharing the content, that's assuming that Ashley's doing everything right. Right. That's assuming that she's already like got her, understands her buyer personas. She's creating really well optimized content, and it's still not being found. That's assuming that she has all that done. If not, it is important to make sure that every piece of content that you create, first and foremost, is created for those buyer personas. One of the most common reasons that I see people creating content and not seeing success from it is usually because it's too generic. It's not actually created for a specific buyer persona or a specific problem. Um, One of the things is like, I always use this example because this is the type of content I see. It's like how to be successful in business. That could be the best article in the world, but like what I think might be, maybe I want to read how to be successful in B2B startups and social media marketing business. Like what Chris might think of is like how to be successful in business by hiring the right people. Right? It could be so different, and so that might be where Ashley's first and foremost. It might need a little bit of help is just making sure the content that's being created is for the buyer personas and has one major um, focus that's not like generic in nature, like how to be successful in business.
Sure.
So
Yeah. I mean, just
yeah,
getting into your niche and really understanding what those people might be looking for is really, really important.
yeah, and I would say once you have that content and you know this is something that is worthy of creating for your personas, next making sure that the difficulty of the keywords or the topic that you've selected can actually help you get found. So and if you're using HubSpot, if you're a HubSpot customer, we have this algorithm that we use called difficulty. And when you add your keywords into the difficulty, or I'm sorry, when you add your keywords into the keywords tool, it gives you a difficulty score, telling you exactly how hard this is going to be for your business to rank. So something like marketing is very difficult to rank for because it's kind of generic in nature and there's lots of content on marketing. But if you said inbound marketing for small B2B startups or software startups as a keyword phrase, that's going to be much easier to rank for. So it's important to make sure that once you have that topic, it's something you can in fact rank for. Usually the more long tail and the more descriptive, the easier it is to rank. Then, once you know you can rank for this, if you create the content, you want to create the optimized content. So, making sure that your content is first and foremost of the utmost quality. Like you want to be the content that Google knows they're happy to send people to, right? If they send somebody to your site and people hit the back button right away, they're like, oops, sorry about that. Like, we're sorry, we didn't mean to send you to a bad site. You have to go spend more time researching. That doesn't look good for Google. So they want your content to be very, very relevant and quality, right? So once it's quality, you can make sure that you have those keywords in a few key places. 5 recommended places are your page title, which is like your blog post title, your URL, which usually in most softwares will say it's the page URL. This should also be the page title. It's also the URL. Throughout the content, naturally, right? No underlining or bolding. Just naturally use it. Also in headers. So if you break up your content into digestible pieces, you usually use subheads. You want to use those keywords or relevant keywords or similar that support the topic. And then lastly, in the meta description, because that's what people see in search engine results. Sorry, I just took that for a whole little lesson there. But first and
Hey, that's
foremost,
great.
yeah. Just to recap, have content for your buyer personas and make sure that it's something they want to read. Make sure that it's really not just something generic in nature, but descriptive. Usually more descriptive means lower difficulty, easier to rank. And then make sure when you're creating content around that, you've optimized your page in a way that's quality first and then also optimized for search engines.
What a well-rounded answer. I can't add anything to that. That's awesome,
Gosh.
Sarah. Thank you
Hope
so
that
much.
was helpful, Ashley.
All right. So here the question comes from another Chris. So what is the best way to get the rest of my marketing department excited / on board with inbound marketing? We have been using more traditional forms of marketing in the past. So we've got perhaps a really gung-ho inbound marketer within a marketing team, or perhaps they're a director and their team is just not bought in yet. What do you think some key
Yeah.
things that we can talk about with our team, or key activities to perform with them in order to get them on board, or get more buy-in or excitement?
I would say there's two ways to go about this. It depends on, I guess, Chris's role. If Chris is like, the marketing director or manager, it will be easier.
I think Chris is actually like part of a team, and he's got a CMO,
okay.
so he's probably kind of one of the team members and trying to get everybody else on board.
Interesting. Okay, so if that is the case, the inspiration, like usually people get other people bought into email marketing by either like telling them like this is our vision, where get them excited about the vision and to see what the possibility of inbound can do by reading about similar companies who've had success from it, getting them bought in that way, or by having people do it for a little bit and see the results and get them, the rest of the company, bought in from the results, right? So you're either the change agent that inspires, or you slowly do it and then see results, right? I would say if you are not one of those higher ups, one of the things that you could do, and I don't know how passionate Chris is and wants to make this change and wants to really make a difference, but if Chris is really gung-ho on this, Chris could um, slowly start doing some of this on his own, maybe blog once a month for the company and say, I want to try something new. I'll take it all on during my lunchtime, but I want to try something new because I think this could be huge for our company, right? And just start doing it, start showing the results. After 2 months or 5 months or 6 months, I want us to come back together and see if this is something we want to continue doing and work really hard on Chris's end to see those results. Or Chris could put together, do a lot of research and identify why his company should do inbound, like create a PowerPoint presentation, get the right people bought in, get the right people in that meeting, and inspire them to want to make this change.
Yeah, absolutely. I think doing that pilot test is a great way to do it. And people, just in general, our bosses and people in the organization, they like to see people take initiatives. And how can we go ahead and maybe write that first blog post and show perhaps competitors that are actually doing this? I know that being an agency and as a part of the sales process in kind of getting people on board with inbound marketing, we've got some direct experience with this. There's nothing more sensitive for a business owner or a higher up in a business than seeing that their competitors are getting an edge.
Yeah, that's true. I see that a lot too. People are always inspired by like what their competitors are doing, but sometimes like here at HubSpot, we try not to look at what our competitors are doing because that might give us bias, like, oh, well, they're doing this, we should do this. And I think it was maybe it was the CEO, maybe it was like Larry Page over at Google, but they were saying, we don't look at our competitors, we don't obsess over them, we try to see like what we should do. and what we want to focus on. But the competitors thing is always a great way to get, higher ups bought in. Like, well, our all, 10 of our indirect and direct competitors are doing this.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important to maintain your unique approach to whatever business you're in. But looking at people getting an edge, it definitely is something that has worked, and maybe you could give it a shot.
Yeah,
Um,
I also like to share one statistic that I think is pretty powerful, and this was back from our State of Inbound Marketing that HubSpot put out. I think it was in 2012, so I'm sure it's changed and increased, but it was that inbound marketing. So 60% of marketers have already adopted some inbound marketing strategies. So 60% of marketers across the globe have already started doing inbound marketing in some capacity, right? So in 2012, like that's just showing you that it's past the early, it's past the innovators based on that adoption curve. It's, in the early majority, if not more. So, most people are adopting these. And so it's time to really decide, do we want to be the group that joins and pioneers this for our industry or our company? Or do we want to wait till it's like maybe too late?
yeah, I just saw, and I heard about this on a podcast that I listened to, but I just saw this article on the HBR or Harvard Business Review. It's called The Content Marketing Revolution. And it was Alexander Jitskowitz wrote this on July 1st, and basically it's a recap of what we already know, and sort of is presenting it as news. But what's interesting about this, and what I guess Joe Polizzi was talking about on the Content Marketing Institute podcast, was, hey, HBR basically is just legitimized content marketing. More and more people are going to start to use it. I'll definitely send this article out, because I think that it has been one of these things that, okay, well, it's blogging, it's social media, maybe we shouldn't take that too seriously. But
Yeah.
now, Harvard Business Review is taking it seriously. More and more enterprise companies are going to start taking it seriously. And I think it's time a lot of people wake up. So I'll definitely include a link to this so that you guys can check it out.
I love that. I would love to see that as well. You know what I also noticed, and I think one last thing on that. So a lot of companies, I'm noticing, B2B companies, instead of calling them blogs now, like in their navigation, they're calling them articles. I don't know if I haven't heard any like statistics or anybody talking about that, but I've noticed a lot of B2B companies doing that in the past couple of weeks. So maybe that's another way they could say, like, it's not necessarily, just don't think of it as blogs only, but think of them as really pieces of articles that our company is getting behind.
I think that's a great point. It's all about positioning, and
Mm.
for a lot of people, it's a blog is a bad word because they think it's tweeting, and they aren't necessarily up to speed on how it all works. The word blog is interchangeable with one page on your website, which is basically all it is. So
Yeah.
however you need to present it, and I've seen other ways of thought leadership. If you think about the navigation on someone's website, or learning center. I'm starting to see more and more learning centers developed with blog and white papers, kind of all in one home base.
Totally. I mean, you have this information, and people want this information, and they're going to find it whether it's from you or someone else. So why not be the one that gives them that great info?
Sure. Megan in the chat pane said their strategy has been to push themselves, keep an eye on the competitors, but push themselves to be the best, the smartest inbound
Ooh.
marketers they can be, and they'll beat the competitors. So awesome, awesome insight from Megan.
Yeah, Megan, thanks for sharing that. I love that.
So I think this may be our last question, and it's fairly simple. What are your opinions on using pop-ups for lead generation? From Roger.
Ooh. I don't know if it's because I'm a millennial or what it is. I understand them. Do I like them? Do I fill them out? 1% of the time I fill them out. Even if I love the content on the site, there's something in me. So for buyer personas, if I'm your buyer persona, but if you look at the numbers, oh, man, I hate to say it, but depending on your buyer persona, they can be really, really beneficial as long as they're not going overboard. Like, I mean, when we say pop-ups, we think maybe one, maybe two at the most. But I think what we've seen lately is a lot of companies are kind of getting, they've seen success with it. They maybe get carried away a bit. I've seen recently, one of my favorite websites ever. Uh, I'm not going to say who they are because hopefully they got my tweet. I was like, man, your content's so great. I just got 3 pop-ups in a row. And they were like, oh no, we don't mean to do that. Let's see if we can figure this out. But I got 3 pop-ups right in a row, and their content is so high quality that I'm willing to put up with that, right? But in my mind, that takes away a little bit. So I think, they can be successful. Try them out. Definitely worth, if you're just doing it on an article, definitely worth testing. Absolutely, I would never say yes or no to that. I would say definitely worth testing. Um, but it shouldn't be something that you're like, this is going to make or break my business type of thing. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts, Chris?
I think that's the important thing is try it out, see how it works. You're right. It's undeniable. Pop-ups can really generate some leads, but are they the right leads? We don't know. You've got to start looking at that and look at the lead quality. There are different ways to look at the lead quality if you follow folks down your sales funnel, and how many of these people who are converting on these pop-ups are actually becoming uh, or at least getting into sales conversations. I know in marketing, we can't always control what happens when we pass the leads off to sales.
Yeah.
So it's important to keep in touch there. But pop-ups can be good. I noticed on another website, a blog that I read now and then, I was about to X out of the article. I'd read the article. I was not going to move on and take and download the offer associated with it. I was just going to read the article. I My mouse went up to the top of my Google Chrome browser and basically crossed the threshold towards off of the website and towards the tab at the top to close it off, and a pop-up came up then.
Whoa, so it knew that you were about to navigate away?
It did. It did. I know a little bit about code, so
Uh-huh.
I viewed the source of the web page and tracked down the service that provides this,
Mhm.
and we're looking at giving this a shot. I mean, it's definitely something that I noticed right away. This definitely did that as I was about to leave, and not until then. So I thought it was
Interesting.
really cool. The company called Bright Info, and I will make sure to include this in the show notes as well. Uh, I'm not endorsing this yet, but it looks like a lot of people are using it. So just let you know, I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. But I thought that was an interesting way to use pop-ups that wasn't super annoying, because if I just wanted to
Yeah,
X out, I could have X'd out anyway.
that's true. And you were going to X out. Interesting.
Yeah,
One
and then
thing
I
that
stopped.
also I noticed, people were using, and when I think of pop-ups, I don't immediately think of pop-ups in this way. I think of pop-ups on a web page, but I've noticed, people starting to use um, pop-ups on while watching a video. So it's kind of like you're watching a video. It's great content. Maybe you get like 1/3 of the way in or half of the way in. It's like, want to continue watching. We'd love for you to continue watching. Just drop in your email address here. So maybe they're watching a product demo, or maybe they're watching just a piece of content that you've created, a webinar. Maybe it's this webinar, Chris, and it says, hey, you want to hear what we think about pop-ups? Enter your information into this pop-up.
Sure. Yeah, I think Wistia is definitely does that, and I know that Wistia is a video hosting service that is doesn't require you to basically let YouTube run advertisements on it, and it directly integrates with HubSpot, which is kind of nice.
Awesome. Yeah. I love Wistia. We use Wistia to host all of our videos, so we're big fans. They have an integration with HubSpot, which is great.
Really cool service. It lets you see how much of a video any one of your leads has actually watched. Uh, you can use that in a variety of ways. Really cool. You might want to check that out. I'll definitely include a link to that as well.
Yeah.
So
One last thing on the pop-ups. I just want to say one of my favorite sites that does use pop-ups is Conversion XL, conversionxl.com. And they have a pop-up, but it's not an intrusive pop-up, and it waits till you get like halfway down the page. And they actually write about pop-ups themselves. They write out about like a lot about email marketing stuff, and they have a great piece of content on pop-ups. But they use them on their website, and they do a great job with it. But if you're going to use it, I mean, definitely test it out, see if it's worth it.
awesome. So two suggested things to try out: Conversion XL and Bright Info. So I've definitely got some homework for pop-ups. So awesome that we could get into that. So Sarah, it's been awesome to have you on. I think we all learned a little something, and just I can't thank you enough for coming. How can our audience get in touch with you?
Oh man. Well, I do have Twitter, so anybody can reach out to me. You can see my Twitter handle right there that Chris put, right under my name, a little bit below my name. That's usually a great way because I get that straight to my phone. I have notifications, all that stuff. But also on Google Plus, and you can also email me at HubSpot. So my name is the same as my Twitter handle, except it's just at HubSpot.com.
So for those listening via audio, it's sbedrick at HubSpot.com or at sbedrick on Twitter.
Yeah. Chris, thank you so much for having me. I think this is great. I love these questions, and if I might even create a blog post on one of these questions because these were really great. We hear them all the time, very important to address, and I'm glad that we got a chance to do that here today.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Sarah, and thanks everyone for coming. We'll let you get back to your nice, warm July morning.